Welcome everyone to tonight's debate, where ideas collide and futures are imagined. Our motion asks whether, in the decades to come, governments should prioritize funding for space-based art and cultural heritage projects, using new technologies over traditional space science missions. On one side, the conservatives will argue that classic science missions must remain the priority. On the other, the progressives will push for art and cultural legacy in space as a vital mission for humanity. Let us begin with the progressive team as the proposers of this bold vision.
Imagine a world where our children do not just read about Mars or the Moon, but also witness art created among the stars, expanding human meaning as much as human knowledge.
Studies show that cultural projects inspire broader participation in science, and data from UNESCO suggests creative engagement multiplies the impact of research investment.
If governments invest in space art, they give future generations a universe filled not only with numbers and rocks, but with symbols, stories, and shared identity.
Technological advances like 3D printing and zero-gravity and immersive virtual reality already make such projects feasible, and ignoring them risks losing a once-in-a-century chance.
Yes, science missions teach us how planets move, but art in space will teach us why humanity belongs there.
The evidence is clear that inspiration drives funding, and funding drives progress, so space art is not a luxury, it is a catalyst.
Thank you, progressives, for painting a cosmic canvas with your argument. Now let us hear from the conservative team, who will ground us in their vision of priorities.
It sounds poetic to hang paintings in orbit, but let us not forget that every launch carries risks, costs billions, and demands responsibility to taxpayers.
According to NASA's 2023 budget analysis, even essential science programs struggle for funding, so diverting resources to art could weaken climate research, planetary defense, and medical experiments in microgravity.
Without hard data and proven discoveries, there will be no foundation on which future culture can stand, because art flourishes only when basic survival is secured.
And technology, no matter how dazzling, must be aimed first at solving urgent problems like energy storage and space debris, before we let it serve galleries among the stars.
Let us prioritize what is essential: protecting Earth, advancing science, and saving lives, rather than chasing murals across the Milky Way.
The facts show clear opportunity costs, and the burden of proof lies with those who want to gamble public money on cosmic aesthetics.
Progressive team, the floor is yours to press the case with a sharp attack.
Every dollar that paints meaning into the void multiplies scientific curiosity, so funding space-based art first is not a detour but an engine that pulls new minds and new money into the lab.
Conservative team, your turn to respond with a focused defense.
Public funds must meet essential needs before inspirational wants, because priorities that ignore life-saving research and planetary protection are irresponsible.
Conservative team, keep the momentum and mount your attack.
When budgets are finite, glamour projects become sinkholes that swallow climate monitoring, asteroid tracking, and medical science that actually keeps people alive.
Progressive team, answer that charge with a crisp defense.
Inspiration is infrastructure for knowledge, since cultural missions expand the audience that votes for and sustains the very science our opponents claim to protect.
Conservative bench, line up a two-speaker combination for your attack.
Let us be plain. A sculpture on a lunar ridge will not detect methane leaks, predict hurricanes, or model pandemics, so it is a misfire in a crisis era.
Historical data on public programs shows that overpromised spectacle breeds backlash, which then cuts the serious science that citizens thought they were paying for.
Progressives, compose yourselves and answer with a coordinated two-voice attack.
A nation that leads culture in orbit leads markets on Earth, because creative demand drives new materials, new displays, and new communications that yield patents and jobs.
From additive manufacturing in microgravity to ultralight optics for creative capture, the same tools that craft art will spin off into cleaner factories, cheaper satellites, and better classrooms.
Progressives, that is noted. And now I need the conservative side to steady the frame and deliver a two-voice defense.
We answer that markets already reward useful tech without the government paying for orbital galleries, so let private patrons fund aesthetics while taxpayers fund necessities.
Moreover, your plan underestimates opportunity cost, since each launch window and payload bay you fill with expressive artifacts displaces instruments that track fires, floods, and food security.
Progressives. The baton returns to you for a two-voice defense that includes a counter question and a pointed challenge.
Our counter is simple. If art powered the printing press, the microscope, and the camera by creating demand for images and insight, why deny that same flywheel in orbit today?
And our challenge is this. Will you commit on record that inspiring the next million scientists is not a legitimate public objective when every STEM pipeline screams for motivation?
Judges, I would like a mid-round temperature check. Please share which team you currently lean toward, what strength you see there, and one weakness you observe in the other, and offer brief encouragement to both.
Right now, I lean progressive because the vision connects culture with capability, though I need tighter guardrails on budget risk from the conservative critique. And both teams should push beyond slogans into mechanisms that the public can audit.
At this moment, I favor the conservative case for its discipline and sequence, yet I also see the progressive spark as a national asset, and I urge both sides to quantify trade-offs and show me timelines that a responsible treasury could live with.
My needle tilts progressive for raw imaginative return, while noting the conservative warning about crowding out life-saving missions, and I encourage each side to marry art with metrics and science with story, so voters can trust the plan.
Thank you, judges. With the cards on the table, we begin round 2 with fresh angles, and the first move goes to the conservative team.
New point, space debris already threatens missions, and decorating orbit with cultural payloads increases traffic and collision risk without clear scientific yield.
Progressive side, please provide a direct defense.
Debris is a design problem, not a destiny, and cultural missions can pioneer recyclable structures, low-profile tethers, and retrieval protocols that make the whole ecosystem safer.
Progressive side, continue by pressing an attack.
If we keep telling students that space is only for equations and not for expression, we waste talent that could solve those equations because they never felt invited to try.
Conservative side, the mic returns to you for defense.
Invitation without instruction is hollow, and the surest invitation is success in hard missions that deliver weather accuracy, safe navigation, and resilient communications.
Progressive team, lead with a duo attack that blends leadership and support.
Leadership means setting a North Star that people can love, since love keeps budgets alive through elections, in a way graphs alone rarely do.
Support means showing tool chains, from 0G 3D print labs for cultural prototypes to student-built CubeSats that capture performance art with scientific sensors aboard.
Conservative team, mount a two-voice attack to match.
Here is the rub. Your proposal blurs criteria so badly that political favorites masquerading as culture will crowd out peer-reviewed missions.
Procurement gets messy when taste replaces evidence, and the public interest suffers when committees debate style instead of error bars and confidence intervals.
Progressive team, I will cap that exchange and turn to you for a two-voice defense featuring replies and a probing counter.
Reply 1. Procurement can use independent juries, transparent scoring, and sunset clauses, just like science grants, so taste does not rule unchecked.
Reply 2. Our counter is whether you accept that meaning itself is a public good, because if you do, then a measured share of the portfolio deserves to cultivate it.
Conservative side, please provide a two-voice defense that includes clear answers and a specific vulnerability you see in the opposing plan.
Answer 1. We accept that meaning matters, yet we reject funding it ahead of missions that shield towns from storms and farmers from drought.
Answer 2. Your vulnerability is governance, since evaluating cultural impact across regions and cultures is subjective and will trigger endless contest, delay, and litigation.
Progressive team, the floor returns to you for a targeted attack by one speaker.
Cost per inspiration is actually measurable through applications, enrollments, and community projects, so dismissing impact as subjective is an excuse to avoid building the dashboard.
Conservative team, you may defend with one voice.
Dashboards do not pay for radiometers or shield satellites from radiation. And while soft metrics trend nicely, hard science misses its window when budgets shift to spectacle.
Conservative team, continue with a single speaker attack.
There is also the international angle, because nations that cannot meet basic needs may view cultural payloads as flaunting wealth, which weakens cooperation on security and climate.
Progressive side, provide a brisk defense by one speaker.
Cultural payloads are ideal for joint missions that include open access archives and educational streams, which builds goodwill and lowers suspicion across borders.
Conservative side, assemble your two-speaker attack with a leader and a supporting closer.
Leader point, the surest route to goodwill is reliable data that helps every country protect crops, coasts, and citizens. So science first is the most ethical stance.
Support point. When people see real benefits at home, they then welcome beauty in orbit, so the sequence matters, and your order is reversed.
Progressive team, I will rein that in and pass to you for a two-speaker attack.
Leader move, sequence is not either or but braided, because cultural missions can ride along on research platforms, sharing mass, power, and bandwidth without stealing the show.
Support move, co-manifesting payloads yields cross-training crews, richer telemetry, and reusable frames that stretch every dollar further than siloed flights ever could.
Progressive side, that concludes the sequence, and I now pass control to the conservative team for a two-speaker defense featuring direct answers and a sharp counter question.
Answer: county manifesting raises integration risk, schedule slips, and testing complexity, which historically escalates costs for everyone on the stack.
Counter question: if your plan slips a joint mission and an early wildfire season loses satellite coverage, who bears responsibility for the damage on the ground?
Progressive side, respond with two voices for defense that includes precise replies and pointed identification of a weakness on the opposing bench.
Reply: modular architectures and late-stage docking reduce integration risk, and modern rideshare management already handles diverse payloads with strict gating.
Weakness call-out? The conservative plan underestimates the enrollment crisis in STEM and the retention gap for underrepresented groups, which cultural access directly improves.
Progressive team, I am granting you one additional single-speaker attack to crystallize your claim.
If we want a century of discovery, we must fund the spark that keeps the torch lit, and space-based culture is that spark at planetary scale.
Conservative team, answer that with a single-voice defense.
A torch without fuel is a sculpture, and our duty is to fuel instruments that track physics, chemistry, biology, and the Earth systems that keep people alive.
We return to structured exchanges, and I will cue a progressive single-speaker defense.
Keeping people alive also means keeping people believing, because budgets are moral documents that mirror hope, and cultured space kindles that hope sustainably.
Conservative bench, prepare another single-speaker attack to close this segment.
Hope is noble, but policy must count opportunity cost with unforgiving arithmetic, and your vision spends too much before it earns trust.
Progressive side, seal this mini-bout with a single-speaker defense.
Trust is earned by letting citizens see themselves in the mission, and culture is the mirror that turns distant orbit into shared hometown sky.
We now shift tempo again, and I request a progressive two-voice attack with a leader and a data-focused partner.
Leader claim, portfolio diversity reduces strategic risk by opening fresh funding streams from education, philanthropy, and creative industries that co-invest when culture is present.
Data support, cross-sector partnerships historically raise total budgets, and mixed portfolios beat monolithic ones on resilience when politics or cycles turn.
Conservative side, you may answer with a two-voice defense that includes clear replies and a counter-pressure.
Reply: not all diversity is prudent, and a portfolio that mixes objective science with subjective culture invites capture by fashion rather than need.
Counter pressure: commit to a hard cap on cultural spend and a strict kill switch for underperforming projects, or admit that this is mission creep disguised as inspiration.
Progressive team, provide two-voice defense with answers and a counter-challenge.
Answer: we support a cap tied to independent metrics of educational reach, innovation spillovers, and international participation.
Counter challenge: will you agree to earmark a small persistent share? Because without permanence, the pipeline dies with every news cycle and election swing.
Conservative side, you may deliver a final two-voice attack for this chapter before we reset the clock.
Leader strike. Permanence is precisely the danger, since locking in cultural quotas can ossify priorities as threats evolve.
support strike, flexible science budgets save lives when hazards change, and rigid artistic allocations would choke responsiveness when seconds count.
Progressive side, I will cap the exchange and move to closing defenses for this phase with a two-voice reply.
Reply 1. Permanence need not mean inflexibility, because sunset reviews and dynamic thresholds can adjust shares as evidence improves.
Reply 2. The reason to commit to a baseline is to protect the seedbed of talent that keeps laboratories full and discoveries flowing when the next generation arrives.
We will take a breath from the crossfire and note that both teams have sharpened the choice, with progressives arguing for a bounded cultural engine in space and conservatives warning of crowded budgets and risks. Judges will return later with final impressions, but for now we proceed to fresh angles and renewed precision in the coming exchanges. Before we close, I want to check for any new angles or unfinished points that deserve the spotlight tonight.
One more angle is that cultural missions can open source their designs and media, so students everywhere can build along in real time.
One more concern is that open source art in orbit can still impose closed costs on taxpayers who never consented to that trade.
Let us move into a rapid free exchange, and we will alternate speakers to keep this as fair as it is fiery.
If fairness matters, then include the kids who never see themselves in a lab until a poetic image pulls them into physics.
If inclusion matters, then show me scholarships and mentorships funded by science missions rather than ornaments in vacuum.
Scholarships multiply when culture raises attention and donations, which is why museums spark fellowships that labs later benefit from.
Museums on Earth do not need rockets, and rockets should carry instruments that improve weather models, crops, and safety.
A single shared mission can host sensors and culture at once, and that dual payload turns passive viewers into active learners.
Dual payloads also double integration risk, and delays can erase entire seasons of critical data that communities depend on.
Modular frames and rideshare standards cut those risks, and recent launches prove that mixed payload stacks can perform.
Recent launches also show schedule slips, and even small variances can be catastrophic for time-sensitive measurements.
Time sensitivity is exactly why we should invest in cultural telemetry that keeps the public engaged when patience wears thin.
Engagement without discipline becomes spectacle, and government must be the adult in the room when fashion outshouts need.
Call it fashion if you like, but history shows that new media forms often become new scientific instruments within a decade.
History also shows that governments chasing novelty often burn cash, while essential programs limp, and that lesson repeats.
Essential programs expand when the electorate falls in love with the mission, and love needs more than spreadsheets.
Love is no substitute for evidence, and evidence says Earth science and hazard forecasting return the highest public value.
Public value also includes the cultural memory we leave, because a civilization is judged by what it measures and what it means.
Meaning is not measurable with the rigor required for public finance, and budgets should respect that hard boundary.
Meaning is measurable through participation, retention, and creation rates, which are already tracked by schools and platforms.
Those are soft proxies, while radiometers, spectrometers, and gravimeters deliver hard protections for daily life.
Daily life also needs wonder, because wonder fuels the years of study behind every hard instrument you just listed.
Wonder is welcome, but the order matters, and you are trying to reverse sequence with a risky priority shift.
We are trying to braid sequence so that culture and science rise together rather than wrestle for crumbs.
Braiding becomes knotting when governance is vague, and vague scoring will invite lawsuits that paralyze missions.
Clear scoring exists in creative grants with independent juries, transparent criteria, and strict sunset clauses.
Grants on Earth do not face orbital debris, launch windows, and radiation, so the analogy breaks when rockets ignite.
The analogy holds where it counts, because oversight, metrics, and off-ramps can travel with the payload just fine.
Oversight cannot prevent taste from hijacking priorities, and the public deserves mission choices built on need-not style.
Style is a shortcut word for culture, and culture is how nations coordinate meaning at scale to sustain investment.
Investment is sustained by results, and results come from rigorously ranked science that saves lives and livelihoods.
Lives and livelihoods also depend on the stories we tell to keep talent in the field long enough to deliver those results.
Talent stays when labs are funded, not when galleries orbit. And that is the simplest truth in this argument.
Labs get funded when voters care, and voters care when space speaks their language through expression as well as equations.
Equations make satellites useful in the first place, and usefulness must lead or we risk theater without traction.
Call it theater if you wish, but theater trained the optics, materials, and displays that science now relies on every day.
Even if that lineage holds, we do not need to launch theaters to sustain it, because Earth-based culture already thrives.
Earth-based culture thrives because earlier generations funded risks that looked unnecessary until they became the new normal.
Normal for public duty is to protect homes from storms, farmers from drought, and aircraft from turbulence with better data.
Public duty is also to protect the spirit that chooses science over cynicism, which is what a cultural horizon in orbit can do.
I am calling time on the free exchange, and now I ask the progressive side for your final case, with two voices, one to organize facts, and one to persuade our judges.
Here are the facts in plain order. Cultural payloads can co-manifest with science hardware using modular standards. Governance can apply transparent juries and sunset reviews. Measurable outcomes include enrollments, retention, and cross-sector investment. And spillovers include materials, optics, and communications that industry converts into jobs.
To our judges, I say this: a bounded cultural share in space is not a luxury, but a lever that recruits new minds, unlocks new money, and stores a moral memory for future citizens who will inherit both the data and the dream.
Conservative side, you have equal time for your two-voice closing, with one speaker for the facts and one for direct persuasion to the judges.
Our facts are straightforward, budgets are finite, integration risk rises with mixed payloads, life-saving missions already queue for scarce windows, objective metrics favor Earth observation and planetary defense, and every cultural kilogram displaces an instrument that can save lives.
To our judges, I submit that stewardship requires sequence, and sequence says fund what protects people first, set hard caps against mission creep, and invite private patrons and philanthropic consortia to carry the cultural torch until basic needs are secure.
Judges, I will now ask each of you for your verdict and a brief reason while acknowledging the strengths on both benches.
I vote for the progressive team because they offered mechanisms for governance, concrete metrics, and a credible co-manifest path that maintains scientific payloads while unlocking cultural participation, though I praise the conservative clarity on risk which should be baked into implementation.
I vote for the Conservative team because priority must track essential protections and the opportunity costs were argued with discipline and specificity, while I commend the Progressive vision for its potential to recruit talent and would welcome pilot programs under strict caps.
I vote for the progressive team because their portfolio approach promises resilient funding, broader pipelines, and innovation spillovers that history often rewards, and I salute the conservative side for insisting on tighter guardrails that I would require as conditions.
By a vote of 2-1, the progressive team takes the win tonight, and I congratulate them for a compelling and carefully bounded vision.
Thank you for the trust, and we dedicate this win to every student who felt that space had no room for their voice until tonight.
We will work to earn this verdict by designing projects that measure inspiration and deliver spillovers that industry and classrooms can use.
We salute the winners, and we stand ready to collaborate on caps, audits, and safeguards that protect essential science while any pilot proceeds.
We remain committed to the principle that lives come first, and we will keep pushing for standards that keep missions safe, timely, and useful.
My thanks to both teams for a debate that was fierce yet focused, and to our judges for precision and candor. To everyone who stayed with us through every turn, thank you for listening and thinking with us. If you enjoyed this, please tap like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your take or a topic you want next. If you would like to support our work, use the QR code at the bottom right of the video or the link in the description to donate to the channel. You will also find links in the description to other works from entirely different series that you might love exploring next. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and join us again for the next big question among the stars.